Hello and welcome to the Nightly Show. I'm Ken O, Flynn, and tonight I'm joined on the couch by what I can only regard as a very special couple that I've met on a number of occasions here in Cork. Activists, campaigners for suicide awareness, and a couple that went through, I suppose, the toughest time that any parents can go through in their life. Collette and Anthony Wolfe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you coming on. And I suppose really what you're well known for at this stage, not only just being involved with the the Concert of Hope, which is now going on 5 years, but it's your own story as well.
Yes.
And the story as parents who lost a child to suicide.
Yes.
Back in 2007.
Yes.
Yeah. So
to be honest, we're the parents that terrorise schools. We speak in schools as well, secondary schools. We tell them the effect of bullying from Leanne's diaries, which her daughter left 5 years diaries behind, and then we tell them the effect that I had on a family that were left behind from the aftermath, you know what I mean? And we find that with schools, we have never approached any schools, any TVs, any radio. We always feel that we're contacted. We were only just contacted now again today by a school that wants to bring 3 schools together to speak there, and also then to speak to the parents that night, because I think schools are starting to realise they thought if they didn't speak about the bullying or the suicide that it wouldn't come into their schools, but unfortunately it's hitting schools, and it's hitting very young children really in schools.
As a parent, I suppose it's the most difficult thing a parent can ever go through is to find out on that night that your child had taken their lives. And do you mind talking about that?
No, I think I talk about it for the reason is that for me, I've come through it, and some people as parents won't understand that, because I sometimes don't understand it, but it's by the grace of God, because that's where I found my peace and my joy. But it's the most horrendous. I have lost 2 sisters, and I have lost a niece, and I have lost a mother, and nothing could have prepared me for the death of our daughter Leanne. It was just shattering. It was a place and a time, I would love to say a month, but it wasn't. It was a good few years that you're in hell. You have no hope. You have nothing to hold on to, because this situation is never going to change, in the sense that she's never going to walk in the door or that. And for me, what I found very hard, for probably different for Anthony, was my child chose to leave me. I worried about drugs. I worried about drink. I worried about, if she was attacked or raped, or if she drove the car when she drank, all these things. But to be quite honest, Ken, suicide was never something that came into my head. I never thought of suicide, and I couldn't get my head around suicide. Like, for me, I had to get the understanding what suicide was, and when I got the understanding of it, it was actually to commit a crime. And 100 years ago, if you had attempted it and you survived, they'd have actually taken your life for attempting it. And I thought, oh my God, even the word suicide, I always tell people that she took her life or I lost her. Sometimes people would be thinking that I lose her in Duns, but it sounds a lot better than suicide. But for me, it was the thoughts that I waited so long for her that she chose to leave me.
Leanne passed when you were in Spain, so
in Lanzarote.
You were in Lanzarote and you get the call that night. How do you deal with it?
I tell you the truth now. I think it was the first time in our lives, in my life. I would have never, it would have Anthony, would have always, I don't hide nothing anymore, Ken. I'm very open about my life. Through my childhood, there was sexual abuse, so learning never came into I was never taught anything. I was always taught to be afraid before you went in home, so I never was really able to read properly, and I couldn't spell. So even for my husband Anthony to even talk me around to go about a mortgage took a very long time, because of the confidence. I wouldn't have him confidence. So flying and all these things, Anthony would have always done the paperwork. that was miles away from me. I never, sometimes I'd hold a pen and, you know, I always wanted to know what it would be to be able to write things down, because people would take that for granted. Now, by the grace of God, I teach now. So it can only God, and everybody has tried to teach me, but nobody could. But I found a passage in the Bible where the Holy Spirit tells me that he will teach me all things and bring to remembrance all things. And I was thinking, well, men couldn't teach me, because the School of Com tried, my husband tried, my sister tried, and they discovered I was dyslexic. So when you spell something to me, Ken, I actually think you're wrong. So I wouldn't trust your spelling. So, and Anthony would be a great speller, and he'd spell something.
Don't worry, Collette, I don't trust my own spelling at times, so don't worry.
So, do you know, so that's the background I came from. So on that night with that phone call, Anthony lost everything. I could see, when we go through our photographs with Leanne, she was the youngest, he's carrying Leanne in every photograph. So, you know, this was his baby, this was the apple of his eye, this is the child that used to actually cause the arguments between us, because she'd go to her dad if I was refusing something, and, you know, she'd go and she'd butter him up, or if she'd phone me and Marks and Spencer's to bring a lunch up to her in St. Angela's just up the hill, I'd say, Leanne, I'm only an employer. For God's sake, I says, I have a 15-minute break. Her dad could be nearer to Kinsale, she'd phone him and he would come up with the lunch. So I reckon he was the problem really with
breaking his legs running
and
up
he'd come up with the lunch, so she'd know, even though she was driving herself, but she'd, you know, but she had such a good heart. She would have been very like Anthony in the personality wise, quiet, and would have hated confrontation. So on the night of that phone call, it's like, to be quite honest, I'd say even to the time we got off the plane, you're hoping that, are you in a dream? Is this a nightmare? Is things going to change? Can they revive her? Because we had 4.5 hours on a plane that we had no contact, and we were thinking, did they revive her? By some miracle, was she brought back? Was it going to step off the plane and, you know, they were going to say, you know, she's in intensive care, but, and you know what we always remember, when we got off the plane, there was not a sinner. It's amazing, really. There was not a sinner around the airport where we got off, and I thought, oh my God, it's true. They're even after clearing the airport for us. What we didn't realise is that Roy Keane was coming in on the next flight after us, and they were after clearing everything, like, and it's just, I won't lie to you, it took us 10 years to do a sun holiday, and we actually done one for the first time. You know, we went to Portugal because we felt 2 hours is good, but like, it was so hard, and we, you know, there was no help out there for us. I would love to say that, you know, that things were made easy. It wasn't. It was only by the grace of God that it was 2 people at the end that were thrown off a flight because they were drunk, and that's how we were able to fly into Dublin. But outside that, we were waiting and waiting. And when you're grief-stricken, you're in the middle of an airport, and you cannot keep this in. This was a volcano that erupted, not only for me but for Anthony, and you know, you're still want a bit of privacy. You still, you know, you're afraid, you know, you feel like a child. You feel you need somebody to hold your hand and say, look, we're going to do all what we can now, we're going to get you home, and that didn't happen, you know, and it was such a scary place to have no one around, you know, to help us.
You were in a situation, you got the call that Leanne had passed. And then you're getting onto the courier or the travel agent, and
we couldn't get onto her. We couldn't get on.
Trying to get home. Yeah. Eventually you do get home. Yeah.
And he says, Leanne has gone way out. You know, that's the way. You know, that's the way.
Yeah.
That's gone. She's gone, Dad. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, you just, you know, you're on a trance then. You know, it's gone. And to for that then, like, you know, and when we did get the flight the following day, they were actually on a go slow, the baggages, you know, and we were waiting, will they take off? You know, is this going, you know what I mean? You're still in that mode, you know what I mean? You know, nothing, your stomach is churning, your head is spinning, you know. There's a million more things going around your head, really, like, you know what I mean?
You're afraid.
Frightened. You're frightened for the other 2 at home, are they okay, you know?
Yeah. Of course, because your daughter and your son were at home at the time.
My daughter Trina found her, to be honest. She had a tumour only removed 2 years ago, and they reckon it was grown since. Now, they put the date of her daughter, the day that she gave birth to her, at the time for her daughter, but Holly was born 10 months after Leanne. Now Trina's doing very well now, thank God, and my son is, because, you know, I was asked one time, why do you see, you know, in a family where there's one take their life, then another take their life, and they were saying, is it, you know, but you know what it is, Ken,
such
you know
deep
what
sadness too in a family,
you know something, Ken, I noticed that about you for when you were in with the Lord Mayor, when we were speaking to you that time. I could feel the compassion. I'm not just saying that now because we're sitting there, but I could feel the compassion off you, and you're exactly right. You know, people have given me reasons why, but I know because in our own situation, my own children went down to such a low. As parents, you're so broken that people are focusing on the parents and they forget about the children, and then all of a sudden another child can't cope because they're thinking, you know, did I do something wrong? Because the guilt, the shame, oh my God, do you know, people say, what would you be ashamed of? You're so ashamed because someone that you love and you adore, you know, has taken their life and you did know nothing about it. You had no knowledge, only to pick up the day of her funeral, pick up her diaries and read that, you know, her life was being made miserable like.
And that was the first time you knew about the bullying?
Well, 2 years previous, she had a black eye, which, you know,
Kids do.
it was so bizarre really, because even her brother, I told you the background I came from, Ken, my brothers would have beat the stuffings out of us, you know what I mean? So with us, as a couple, this wasn't going to happen in our home, you know, their bodies were respected, you know what I mean? You can talk to somebody without giving them a beating or smacking them. And with Leanne would have never having physical contact in the home, she'd have had him love, arms around him, what have you. So when she came in with the black eye, she couldn't hide it. We were like lunatics, I won't lie. We were, you know, and we discovered at the end the source, and we done something about it. But when we read our diaries afterwards, we made it 100 times worse. In that, you know, something ironic really, that we thought that we were after solving it, and when you read in our diaries then afterwards, this other person got so many other people involved that every corner of Leanne's life was attacked. There wasn't a part, like her photograph, you see that she was, not because she's my daughter, but she was such a beautiful looking girl. But when you see her diaries, I'm nothing and I'm nobody, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm going to starve myself this week now, see can I lose a few pounds? And I used to look and I used to think, you know, we had to do the diaries through counselling, and I used to think, my God, where was I? What planet was I on that I could not see these things that my daughter was going on in her life? And you know, I knew she wasn't, how could I say it, confident. But we used to try to build her up. But that I used to always say, you know, Leanne, you're good looking like your mother. I always remember that. But deep down in my own heart, I wasn't very confident. You know, it's only really since God is after coming into my life that I look in the mirror now. And I'm probably the biggest that I ever was. And I look in the mirror and I says, you're one hot mama. Do you know what I mean? Where when I was at my thinnest, I used to look and I used to think, oh my God. But I think it's what you're feeling inside is when you look in that mirror and you, whatever way you're feeling, you will see it in that mirror. If you feel ugly in the inside, you will feel it.
Collette, if I can just go back, you arrived to Dublin, you got back down to Cork.
Oh my God.
And where do you go from there?
There was nowhere, you know, it's like, I can't say it was like a dream. And I've talked to people where they said they've fainted. I would have loved to have in that kind. I would have loved to have fainted and at least got about even 3 minutes out of it. Do you know, it was pure and utter terror. No sleep, day or night. No matter how tired you are, you try to lie down, sleep wouldn't come, terror would come, you know. And you know, I'm very open about Leanne's death because I'm not this fairy tale woman, as you see. You know, people used to say to me, do you know about angels and what have you? And I've said, could you see me with wings? I said, when I get to heaven, I know I'm going to have, you know, a body. And it's definitely not going to be wings because God already created angels. But like, it was very real for me when Leanne was buried. All I could think of what was happening to her.
So you went through that process. There was guards involved. I think everybody at this stage has read the newspapers and seen the other interviews. So there's no need to go through it. But I have to ask you, there was nobody there kind of at the time to say, there's a grief counsellor, or you need to speak to somebody. Who was there for you? What?
Nobody at the time. Nobody. The only one that we had. The only one that we had.
Or you?
No, for our children, I give you a story and it's the truth. I have no worries. I won't give no names. The only person that we had, that was our rock outside our, and sure, our family was so broken. My mother died 13 months after Leanne, and my mum wasn't sick until 6 months after Leanne, but my mum couldn't cope, couldn't understand it, like where did this come from? But Mark Ryan, which was the guard that was on duty, was our rock. Twice a week he'd come, he'd finish his duties at, we said 12, he'd be in full uniform and he'd come. Now he never mentioned God, Ken, he'd come and you know, he'd be a support. And then we were trying to Google, imagine you're trying to find a counsellor. First counsellor we went, I put €300 into an envelope. It was up out the South Infirmary. All I wanted was, because I was thinking, you know, I didn't know Leanne was going to do this. How am I going to know if the other two, what they're thinking? So they were bound into a car and we drove to this place and we went in. We had the diaries at this stage, but my daughter was after reading them. She says, please ma'am, you're going to need help with these. Don't read them. Don't read them, you're going to need help.
And Leanne's diary, you found that the day of her funeral?
The day of her funeral, my daughter found them the day of her funeral. So when we went into the counsellor, me and her dad, me and Anthony went in and I explained to her about our situation and that we found diaries. I didn't read the diaries, I said, but my daughter said it's all bullying that's in them. And I remember I gave the envelope, I said, I just want you to talk to my son Anthony and my daughter Trina. I wanted to know, were they thinking thoughts? Were they, you know? And she told me she couldn't deal with it, with the diaries, but there was too much going on. And I remember I left the envelope for her, you know, that you're frantic. And at the end I got we got another number for a grief counsellor. And to be honest, I won't lie to you, Ken, I'm not saying there's not good ones out there because my daughter had a good one at the end, but I tell you, the one that we got definitely needed more counsellor than me. Oh my God, she needed more help than me, to be quite honest, you know. I was told, you know, clear her photographs because my other children were going to get upset over Leanne's photographs. My daughter turned around and says, Ma'am, all you have is photographs of Leanne. Do you think we're jealous of Leanne? How could we? She says, we have them all over our walls.
So essentially what happened to the two of yourselves is you didn't have time to grieve yourselves because you kind of automatically went into emergency mode.
Yeah.
What about the other two? What's going to happen? I have to protect them. And the mother hen kind of comes out, doesn't it?
You're scared, and they're so
Something else is
scared.
going to come in, you know, there's always fear, like, you don't know what, but there's that more comes into
Of what's going to happen
And
next.
then-
And then the other problem, I even find when there's a natural death, whether it's your mother, your cousin, your uncle, people want to avoid the subject as well.
They do for us.
Because they don't know what to say.
You're right, but for us it was harder because of suicide. And like when you'd hear, I give you an example. I was working in Marks. I tried to go back, and I about 12 months after Leanne died. And I won't lie, it was very hard. I didn't even know at the time why I was back there. I was saying, oh, I'd last an hour, I'd last 2 hours, what have you, and it was only for the staff that was in there. They're so wonderful, to be honest. And I was there one day and this lady came, and I was in menswear. And I like people, you see, Ken. I like people. There's more good than bad out there. And this woman came and she was dressing 5 sons for her daughter's wedding. And I thought, you know, I was focusing on her, and next day she said, I should have had 6 sons. And I looked at her and she says, she said, one of my sons died. And I looked at her and I thought, you know, this is going to be a very hard time for her. Like, so she told me that her son died of bone cancer. And I remember looking at her thinking, and you know what ran through my head, Ken? All I could think was, please don't ever ask me how many children I have. Please don't ever ask me, because I wouldn't have denied her. But I wasn't in it. I was completely, I went in my own life after that. And I remember she looked, she said, how many children have you? And I said, 2, 3. I didn't know what I had anymore. And I said, I lost one. So she asked me how. And I told her, and I was thinking, she's going to look and say, my God, my child fought for life. He did everything. And you know what she done, Ken? I was so blown away. It's only the people that really have walked a walk of hell and trouble are very compassionate. She looked to me, she started crying. She said, oh my God, she said, I got 12 months to say goodbye to my son. You got no time at all. And I thought, what a way to look. I remember going home to Anthony that day and I thought, what a compassionate, loving woman. Like, I think people that have lost loved ones through suicide, people don't have to look at us different. We tear ourselves down. You know, people might say, I remember how the story broke first day about Leanne was that they were thinking, the parents must know. They must know. They must have having some idea. But you know, you don't. And then afterwards, you're so broken up about it. You're thinking, how could I not know that my daughter, like, this is not, you know, like, do you know what I was doing, Ken? the week before I went on holidays, like I might get a bit upset with this, I was picking out Deb's dresses. And I came back and picked out a coffin. Do you know, how does it get from a Deb's dress to a coffin? I could never work that out in my head for an 18-year-old. I was, even the day down in that funeral home, and we're looking, I remember, it was like, you know, a big room like this now. And they're showing us all the different coffins, and I was looking, like, and all I could think was, I wanted to throw up. I was thinking, like, what's nice about a coffin? Do you know, when you do think of it realistically, for an 18-year-old, and I was looking, and I remember, you know, my daughter and my son, and they were helping, you know. My mum was even there, God love it. And I remember, you know, we were very blessed because we had Charlie Sullivan. He came out of retirement in O'Sullivan's. He just loved my mum, and he was after coming out for my sister as well, because my sister was only 40 when she died, just before Leanne. And I remember being down there because we had to get the coffin before we could view Leanne. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you know, how could, I remember in the back of my head, I could see the red, she was after picking out the most amazing Deb's dress, and I was thinking, how in the name of God could it come to this? Like, I'm down here, and it's so surreal that, you know, I tell the truth of how it feels, because anybody that's watching that think that they're going to end their life and think that everything is going to be grand, it's not, because what they leave behind is heartache, misery, loneliness, fear. And for the siblings to see my two children for what they're after going through, to see my son that was 9 years older than her, I refused to leave her go to Crease, and the only way I could refuse her was not pay the money, because I felt at 17 and a half she was too young, and I was fearful. Do you know, you're a mother, and she was saying all her friends was gone. My son actually paid the 750 because he was saying, Ma'am, it's going to be okay. And when I heard, and then when I looked at him, like, you know, you see, he was blaming himself. Do you know, Ken, do you know where I found my son one night? You know, this was our firstborn, and you know, we got a phone call from his wife. I'd love to say drugs and drink that he hit, but he didn't. He didn't need a drink or drugs. He was so, you know, his body was overtaken with grief and loneliness, and, you know, he wanted answers, and he was so quiet, beautiful looking young man. He is still, very good looking man, but he was quiet, and he felt that his sister couldn't come to him about the bullying because, you know, he wasn't a fighter, you know what I mean? And I remember thinking, this night we got the phone call, he was missing. He was after walking out from his girlfriend. They're married now. And I remember we combed the place, and I remember 2:30 at the end I said, Tatney, oh my God, we go to the graveyard, because he was drawn to the graveyard, and when we pulled up to Kilcully, we could see his Jeep, and the door of the Jeep was opened, and he was playing Leanne's music, but there was no Anthony there. And I was thinking, oh my God, oh Lord. I remember you're desperate, like you're holding, and you're thinking, Lord, you know, please don't leave this being another one, don't leave, you know. And I remember getting to the gates, and I remember I heard he's crying. He was crying. And I remember as a mother, and I know Anthony felt the same, as a father, to feel the relief that you could actually hear it, that I wasn't. If it was silence, I think every nerve in my body. And when we went up, he was lying on our grave. And, you know, he was missing his sister, his baby sister, you know what I mean, that he used to mind and look after. You know, these are the things that I put out there so that, you know, people that are contemplating suicide.
And you blame yourself.
And that's where it is, that's where it comes down to. And we tell people this so that if they're contemplating, because you don't know who could even be watching this, that are thinking that, oh, everything is, you know, they'd be better off without me, because these are what we had to read from Leanne's diaries. Even the very letter that she left on her last night was, you know, they'd be better off without her. Like, how could we be better off without her? The most precious gift, you know, that you can get in life is to be able to, you know, I had 3 children, and, you know, I felt in my lifetime, nothing I ever touched, you know, between reading, writing, jobs. I cleaned toilets, Ken. I make no bones of what I did. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been a lazy person, but I never felt I was good enough for anything that, you know. But when I had these children, they were my life. I was thinking, and then they started maturing into good and kind adults. Not perfect, because Leanne would have brought you to your knees. Do you know, I used to worry about my middle child. I says to her now, I said, I was worried about the wrong one. Do you know, because Trina got pregnant young, but still went down and did college, and is project manager now in Canada, you know what I mean, with a wonderful husband and 2 wonderful children. She's worried about her eldest boy now because she says, Mammy's coming into teenage, and I said, Trina, worried about the younger one because he's going to sail through it. Do you know? And I want people to know that, you know, you're sitting there and you're thinking like, I'm worthless, I'm useless. Do you know, they'd be better off without me. Do you know, there's a lovely saying that says, there's, you know, to one person, you're the world. You know, to the world, you're anybody, but to that one person, you're their whole world. To Leanne was our world. Anthony and Trina were our world. You know, this was something that I did right. I used to look at them and think, you know, they're going to be good for the, you know, Cork City. They have good nature, and you know, they were ruined rotten. Ken, I won't lie. My family used to call them poor little rich children, but Leanne still kept down a job, even though she didn't have to, because she would have been still spoilt. You know what I mean? But we always gave them a sense of responsibility, respect people. Do you know, I had a friend that was she's passed now since, that was very close, and it was something that I didn't find out until a year after Leanne's death. She came down to my home, and she was sitting there and she says, Collette, you know, I tried to take my life one night. And I kind of looked and I said, no. And she said, no one knew about it, she said. But she said Leanne did. And she used to visit me up in St. Michael's. As long as she was in there, Ken, Leanne never said that to me. And I thought, what a decent human being. And I remember about her diaries, when Trina done them, when Trina read them, I remember Trina says, Ma'am, you're going to be so hurt. You're going to be so... And I was thinking, are we in it? Your first reaction is, are we in there? What are we in there like? Do you know what I mean? And she says, no, she was very hurt. She was very hurt. And I says, in what way? And then when the counsellor started doing them with us, the counsellor actually read them 3 times. The first time she said she cried her eyes out. The second time she cried her eyes out. And the third time she said she contacted a detective friend of hers to find out if there could be anything to be done, what was in them like. And I remember thinking, and I asked her, I said, can I ask you something? Did my daughter hurt anybody? And she said no. And I thought, you know, I'm glad she didn't, because, you know, sometimes we blame, you know, the way people hurt us, and we think we have a right to do that. You know, I have forgiven Leanne's bullies. My husband have forgiven Leanne's bullies. You know.
Have you read her diaries?
Yes, yes.
That must have been bloody hard.
Oh my God, I tell you the truth. People say that you have the answer. I tell you the truth, we got our answer all right, but I tell you, it came at a heavy price. It came at a heavy price to know how much pain, hurt, loneliness. The loneliness was unbearable to read at times, and then she'd even go to pencil when she'd be really, because the counsellor told us when she went to pencil, it was, you know, her safe time. You know what I mean? It was like going back in time. And I always think that, you know, for my husband Anthony, he always kind of, even the photographs that he's attracted to, it's always the ones before she was around 12, because that's the time he was able to protect her, and he was able to look after her and mind her. So, you know, this is not a story to make people's lives a misery. Like I told you, we go into schools and we speak in schools. We want to show them we're actually hope as well, because no, we've come through this by the grace of God, and we tell people that suicide is not the answer. And you know, if you're treating somebody nasty tomorrow, bullying is not the answer. You know, they might say, oh, physically you can bully someone. You know, you can make a remark, Ken. You can make a remark even about somebody, the way they're dressed, you know, and make them, you can hit that mark right on the button, you know what I mean? You know, it costs nothing to be nice to each other. You know, we've such a short life, and we're sharing this planet with, you know, with few people that we'll come in contact with.
Okay. So you say you've forgiven the bullies and the perpetrators of this, and that's bloody difficult to do. I can imagine.
No, it's
but
very hard.
you've moved. You have. I don't know. Do you ever move on?
You do.
But you have certainly, both of you have certainly changed, and you've changed. Your life has changed, but for the better.
Oh,
for the better.
We have a peace. We had no peace, and we have a peace now, and we also have a hope, you know, and we have a purpose, and the purpose is, as long as I'm on this earth, I will leave people know that there is hope, and that you can come through anything, not only suicide, anything, because I have seen it, and I have a joy, Ken, that overflows. You know what the joy is for? The joy is to know that this is not it. This is not it. You know, I was told by the counsellor that this was my life, you know, and that really my version of it now, she didn't put it this way, but my version was suck it up, you know, this is your life.
This is as good as it gets.
And I thought, she didn't know my life. She didn't know what I had to suck up. She didn't know what I had to, and I wasn't going to. But for me, I had an encounter with God. And I know people probably finds it hard to understand. But if somebody, like I said, saved your life, you'd want the world to know. And I know that God is real for me. That peace and that joy, no human being could give it to me. My husband couldn't give it to me, and I couldn't give it to him. So it gives us that strength now to go, you know, to have people in our home, to go to people's home. You know, we're on south side and we're on the west side for in the Southern Health Board for when the guards go in, that this number is given them, our number is given, so that they have somebody to contact, because unfortunately, you know, suicide is very high in Cork and it's very high in Ireland. And so we do these Concert of Hope, our church, to be involved. The reason that we be able to be a free night is because we all join forces.
Now tell me, this is the 5th year now of the Concert of Hope. And I think I've been to 2 of them now.
Yes.
I've been to 2 of them now.
Yeah.
So the Concert of Hope is coming up very shortly again,
13th
isn't it?
of October.
13th of October. It's a free concert down in the City Hall.
Yes.
Doors open at 8 o'clock?
At 7.
7 o'clock, excuse me.
There's refreshments, there's counselling, there's a great night of music, anything really, and there's people that will be there that will care. It doesn't have to necessarily mean that you're going suicide. It's for breakup, it's for loneliness, it's for addiction, it's for anyone that wants to come.
We found with previous concerts like that it's given a positive impact in Cork, like, you know what I mean?
And you've done it in Dublin now as well?
Yeah,
Dublin
2, and there's another one coming up on the 11th of November.
Right.
And they want it in Wales.
Really?
So something must be
Something's
right for
working.
it. Something is right.
working.
But you know, we just, out of this interview, people ask us, like, why do we do it? We do it because we want people to know that there is hope, and that if you are after being affected by suicide, that this doesn't have to be your life. And
Collette, you've opened your home as well to
Yes.
people. You're doing private appointments to sit down
I
with.
don't be even appointments. I keep it. You know, my home is open. You know, they're invited down. They're made comfortable. Up to a couple of months ago, but we were too busy at the moment. Sometimes we could make a dinner. We would have 23 at a dinner. We feed them. You know, there's nothing like to make. You know, to give person food and being good company, and you know, and they're comfortable.
And somebody that knows that what you've gone through and that they've gone through the same.
You see,
Yes.
when things like that happen to you, like, you know, you feel isolated, like, you know what I mean? It's good to know, like, for people, it's like a stepping stone to get out. Do you know what I mean? That they're able to come out and talk about it. People that's been there, but
They're scared.
Yeah.
You know, and we know what that is. We know what that was, to be afraid. Imagine afraid to go out your
Even at
door.
the start, like, we didn't even want to go outside the door. You're afraid of people. You know, you're thinking people, well, they are probably talking of, you know, you just think always in your mind anyway, like, do you know what I mean?
And there, you know, call a spade a spade. There is kind of times where people do talk.
Oh, there is.
Whether it's good or bad, but they talk.
Yeah.
They do, of course.
You know,
I would have done it
And
myself.
people have sympathy.
Yes.
People, you know, I have to say, I think, particularly in Cork, I think we're blessed that we have. People are very good,
They are.
but people don't know what to say or don't know
No.
what to do.
Yes,
And I
And that's one of the big
Yes.
difficulties out there.
That's what we found. People avoided us. They didn't know what to say, and that hurts.
Yeah.
You know, I
And
remember
it's
at
just being
Mark,
awkward,
they'd
isn't it?
look,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and they wouldn't say nothing, and it make you feel uncomfortable. That's changed now, because probably through all the talking, that they come now. Even there was a lady the other day just came, you know, and just, you know, straight away just said, I love what you're doing. She said, you know, you'll always meet somebody that's after being affected. They could have a brother, sister, uncle, cousin, friends, you know, like, even, to be quite honest, I went to Slimming World in Blackpool the other day, and I ended up in the wrong place, and they're filming what's that new film?
Oh, The Young Offenders.
The Young Offenders. And
Did you get a part?
the crew was in there. They got an invitation to the Concert of Hope, and you know what they were at telling me? The last 3. Do you know, isn't that kind of bizarre?
There probably isn't a household in
No.
Ireland that doesn't either have a friend or a family member or a cousin or a whatever
Yeah.
that hasn't taken their life, and that's the sad thing about
It
what's
is,
going on. In
because
Ireland.
you're not after dealing with sickness. You're not after dealing with a car crash. these people are healthy.
And there's no explaining it.
And there's nothing like.
We were at an event in Dublin a couple of months back the other one that, you know, Cork is known as Suicide City.
It is, yeah.
That has to change.
That's
Yeah,
sad, like.
and we do have one of the highest suicide
It
rates
is.
in Europe is in Cork.
It is.
Could I just, we don't have an awful lot of time.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you one question. If there is somebody that's watching tonight, if there's somebody out there that is contemplating, that's saying to themselves, I'd be better off, they'd all be better off if I wasn't here, what would be the advice?
To let them know that they're loved anyway.
To tell them, you know, my number is available. And you know, each and every one of us, it's a very short journey that we're on this life anyway. And for that moment, I was that moment, and it nearly came very close for me in the railway station where, you know, I was just blessed in the morning that I had that encounter. But what I would say to that person is, talk to someone. Sometimes, you know, you have something in you that you're so ashamed to even say to somebody that you can't even leave, and it builds and it builds and it builds. You know, talk to someone. If you can't talk to a family member, my number will be called out at the end of this. Phone me. I've a load of patience, a load of time, and you know something, I've a load of love.
And you're available on Facebook as well. It's Collette Wolfe on Facebook.
And I've, you know, I can't give this love to my daughter because she's not here to give it. So I use it to give it to other people so that they, you know, it's not wasted. I had a load of love to give for Leanne, so that love I can share now with other people, and I can be there, and we're not judgmental, and we're not going to be saying, oh, this or that. My story is live out there if you see heard things with me. Do you know what I mean? Do you know? So it's out there because there's nothing that's hidden. There's nobody can say that this or that. You know, my life is an open book because for 46 years my life was a secret, that I was living a secret, that and you know it built it up. I thought people would look at me dreadful when they heard that I was sexually abused, and it was the complete opposite. People were so nice and so understanding. I thought they'd look at me with distaste and think, what kind of family did you come from? Were you dragged up? It's what we build up in our own head. To that person tonight, even if it's one, it don't matter. My number is available. I'd say to you, please don't do it. You know, you haven't an idea. You know, I ruined. It was, my husband describes it. It's like every window in our home was blown out, and there was nothing. There was a big gaping hole, and that, you know, that void that was there for Leanne couldn't be filled, and the only way I thought I could fill it was ending my life, because I just wanted the pain and the loneliness. You must love someone, that person, that whoever is going to be listening to this must love somebody and know that they love you. Well, they won't get over you, and you know it will take a long journey to get where we're after getting, and I wouldn't want anybody to taste the hell that we tasted. And you know, talk about it. You know, your friends, if you feel your friends are not understanding, go to a stranger. Go and there is help now. There is a lot more help out there than what there was for when we started the journey. Do you know what I mean? I suppose, speaking about it, in the schools, I'd recommend that the teachers, you know, they play Leanne's The Diaries of Collette Wolfe, which won an award in Chicago, New York, and the Irish award here. But we didn't do it for that. We done it that it'd be a tool for suicide and bullying. You know, listen to it and then listen to our story. You know, we're the aftermath. We can't change, but these people that are contemplating taking their life, they can change their story. They can change their story, go on and live and have a good life and affect other people's lives. And you know, and say, I was there. I know what it was to be that low. And you know, when they meet somebody, I recommend everybody should watch that film, Pay It. I think it's Pay It Forward, and it's a beautiful story of a young boy, you know, and you know, it's tragic at the end, but it just shows you that there's a lot more goodness in us. Of course there's a few bad people out there, but you know, there's more goodness in there, and you know, come, you know.
Collette, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. I really appreciate you coming on. I love what you're doing. I think it's marvellous. And you know, whatever your religion is or whatever your belief is, and whatever anyone who's watching tonight's religion or belief is, I have to say I think God chose you to do some great work.
Thank you.
And I mean that, and I mean that.
No, that's
and
lovely.
I mean that.
And you know something, you're the second person that said it, because the Lord Mayor in Dublin said the same. He says, I'm a voice for God, and I'll take that. But I also say, on the 13th of October, it's a wonderful night. Don't miss it. It's free. Come. There's food afterwards, free. Peacock said he loves freebies, so come and be fed. And thank you,
No,
okay?
not at all.
It's a pleasure as
Listen,
always.
I loved you coming on, I love you coming on. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on.
No.
I think you're wonderful, and I think what you're doing in schools and what you're doing and getting the story out there. And thank you so much for that.
No, thank you for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That's a wonderful story from Collette and Anthony Wolfe. If you have been affected by suicide, I'm going to put Colette's details on after the show. It'll be a flash up here. There are so many other charities out there, suicide awareness, etc. If you're contemplating, if you're watching tonight and you're contemplating doing something like this, remember there is always someone to talk to. Pick up the phone, talk to the stranger, talk to a neighbour, talk to your mum, talk to your dad, talk to a friend. It's never as bad as you think it is. And remember, and I read this a long time ago, your darkest hour is only 60 minutes.
And you're not alone.
They're not.
You're not alone.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.